You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
It's time to spin round the rim. This is Desert Planet Discs. Star Wars music in a single file. Here are your hosts, Carl Bayless and Greg Robertson.
Welcome to another interview special, Desert Planet Discs, where we delve into the life and times of musicians who also have a love for all things Star Wars. Our guest today is the bass player of one of Northern Ireland's finest exports since Fantha Tracks' own Claire Henry, Ash. As Britpop Britrock came to the fore in the 90s, Ash established themselves at the rockier end of the sound and have continued to score hits across the years ever since. The band have also made no secret of their Star Wars fandom over the years, with their debut album 1977 opening with the screech of a TIE fighter. Now celebrating 25 years of Ash with the release of Teenage Wildlife, they've obviously had to put on hold touring plans due to the pandemic, but we are extremely happy to welcome Mark Hamilton to the show. Hello, Mark.
How you doing? Great to be here.
Hot dang.
In the house of Darth Elvis.
Darth Elvis and Mooncat drums.
How's things with yourself, Mark?
Good. I'm currently in Blythe in Northumberland. I kind of spend half my time here and half my time in the US, in Jersey City. And it's 2020, so nothing's normal. But we were out on the road at the start of the year, and now we're not. We don't even know if we will ever have a job again right now. But hopefully, someone will come up with a vaccine and things can return to normal.
Yeah, it's one of the things we regularly mention on the show is obviously sort of musicians and the technical staff involved in putting on shows and events and things like that. Everybody.
Yeah, it's completely. It's like there's
really
so much uncertainty Like no one knows when anything will come back to normal. Even though the government has said that venues can reopen and put on shows, it's not financially viable for any venues or promoters, even to open their doors, because they won't generate enough money to do anything. And
yeah.
So I think we're just kind of waiting for a vaccine, and in the meantime, trying to do some things that are outside the box. We did actually have a tour planned for August. I should have been right now actually, and it was going to be a drive-in tour that Live Nation were going to do across the UK.
Yeah.
8 shows, and we were quite excited for that because even though it wouldn't have been ideal, it was still something. It was going to get us out there and keep us busy, and they pulled the plug on that because of the local lockdowns. And yeah, it was kind of a bit, because we were actually really looking forward to it, and then it was a bit of a kick in the teeth when they cancelled that. Because we had, as Greg said at the start of the show, that we had a best of out this year, and we had an entire year of touring, which was supposed to be, it was going to be a good year for cash flow, but it's all just disappeared.
Jump online, buy some Ash t-shirts, and anniversary stuff's online, isn't it? On the website, you can still get t-shirts and CDs and. Yeah,
we kind of pushed that for the first month, and then we kind of need to put up some new product. Actually, we need to get on that. Actually, we've just ordered some masks, so
yeah,
they should be there in the next few weeks.
Cool.
There we go. That's what I'm ordering next.
No more Black Series.
No more Black Series. Tell you, this man's a bad influence on me. You post pictures, I'm like, oh no, I need to buy that. Look at this.
There's a little Instagram group that sort of anytime there's a new pre-order up, it's shit, jump on it quick.
Yeah, my wife thankfully doesn't listen to the show, so I ordered Cad Bane the other day, and ace character.
Yeah. But before we get too far into collecting, for the people that don't really know that much about the band and yourself, Mark, how did you get started as a bass player?
It was purely out of necessity. Tim and I started the band. It was actually not unlike the Bill and Ted story, in that we had started the band before we even had instruments. It was all just an idea. It was okay, and we met whenever we were 11 years old, and I had a denim jacket with an Iron Maiden back patch, and he had one with a Wasp back patch.
Nice.
I had just moved from one town to the town where the high school was going to be, and Tim was the first person I'd met, and it was basically the story of Bill and Ted. We just met, and it was almost air guitaring straight away, and it was we became friends, and very quickly realized that we were both not good at football, and we were never going to be professional soccer players. So if we couldn't do that to escape 9 to 5, we had to come up with something different, and that was going to be we're going to start a start a metal band, and we used to read Kerrang like it was our Bible. So we wanted, I mean, I guess our dream was to be like, have a metal band like Wild Stallions. And so we tried to get all technical, and you know, we had a 5-piece band. There was us, another friend from our year, and then we had 2 guys who were like maybe like 4 or 5 years older than us. And we did a number of gigs in like local assembly halls and leisure centres and art centres, and quickly became like the laughing stock of the town. Then we sacked the 3 other guys, and so it was just me and Tim again, because we'd just been humiliated so badly, and got in the only other drummer in the area that we knew that wasn't already in a band, who actually was like a church drummer. So he wasn't very cool, and we didn't really want him in the band, but he was our only option. So that was Rick, and he came in, and it was right about that time that Nirvana just exploded, and all of this kind of like metal stuff that we were trying to play, and we weren't too bad at it. We were like, you know, we were getting technically okay, but we realized that that wasn't kind of the point, and that the music was all more, well, Nirvana taught us that it was all about the songs and the passion behind it and the melodies, and you know, the technical stuff really didn't matter, and kind of just opened our eyes to sort of like punk music, and that was just like blew our minds, and that kind of set us down the sort of like, I guess, the sound that Ash started out as, and kind of like that sort of like undertonesy kind of punky kind of sound. And that was, from there we just did shows locally and started to build a good following within like the sort of like the school circuit, like just kids our age. And we started playing in the local clubs in Belfast, and within a few years we started like getting sort of like support slots with like the international bands who were coming through.
Yeah.
We started to get attention in the sort of the UK press, and because of that, got ourselves a UK manager. And we then, whenever we finished high school, we moved over to London and basically went professional, got signed, and been doing it ever since.
And very well, if I may say so.
Yeah. I was definitely an inspiration being at high school in 1977 coming out. And I was like, these guys are the same age as us. They've done it. It's possible, like guys.
Yes, it was kind of it. It was cool, and I think around that time there was us and Supergrass, and there was another young band called Tribute to Nothing, who were, you know, 3-piece bands who were all kind of young. And I guess all the bands in the sort of like the alternative music press, like that would have been Enemy and Melody Maker at the time, were all like they were older bands, so like they kind of saw us almost as a bit of a novelty, and they covered us a lot, which was good for getting attention.
Hi, this is John Morton from The Empire Strikes Back, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
As Greg mentioned at the top of the show, the debut album gave a heavy nod to the Star Wars fandom with the TIE Fighter, and obviously the B-side to Girl from Mars was Cantina Band, which I have somewhere on cassette single.
Yeah, we called that debut album 1977, which was, you know, as well, it was our year of birth. It was also, you know, the release of Star Wars. And at the very beginning, there was the TIE Fighter, which we just took off an old VHS copy we had, and in the studio, and we thought we'll just, you know, the record company was like, well, we have to get permission for that, and we're like, no, like just put it on there. Because we had talked about being Star Wars fanboys like so much for I'd say the 2 years that the music press had courted us before that debut album dropped, that it would have looked really bad on Lucasfilm's part if like they sued these teenagers who were like fanboys. So it was kind of like a case of don't ask, apologize later, and we got away with it.
Yeah, before the Disney era, obviously.
Before the Disney era, yeah. But they actually, in a way, it worked to our favor, because then once we were on their radar, they kind of like invited us along to the special edition premieres and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then we got to go and play on set at the Phantom Menace rap party, where they actually built us a stage in Theed Hangar, which was kind of cool.
Oh, nice.
So we had like, you know, the cast and crew of the movie there, and George Lucas was there, and we got to play. That was when we kind of dropped the Cantina Band music on the stage, and I guess that was it's probably the only song that any of them knew that we were playing, but we really didn't care. But yeah, that's right, because we had filmed a sort of like an on-tour documentary film that Ewan McGregor had narrated, because obviously he was involved with The Phantom Menace. He then said, oh, by the way, guy, because he did the voiceover stuff in Soho one day, and we met him in the pub afterwards. And he was like, oh, by the way, do you want to come to the Phantom Menace rap party? It's in a couple days' time. And we were like, well, duh. And then he said, well, and then he was like, do you want to play at it? And we're like, great. So he made some phone calls and was like, yeah, they're going to build you a stage. It'll be all good.
Oh,
So that was kind of a dream come true. And we're sort of like, during the day, we're sort of like snooping around the set and swiping bits and pieces from here or there. Nothing important, just like little. There's a control panel over there. I'll pull that lever off and put it in my pocket.
It's okay. Nobody from Disney will be listening. We're fine.
No, we actually did get, and we got in trouble. We got in worse trouble than that later on. It was around the time. So around the time of our fourth album, Meltdown, we did a demo for a song called Clones, and Electronic Arts, Activision, who were doing the Republic Commando game, asked us to write some music for inside the computer game, and by pure coincidence, we had a song called Clones. It wasn't written about clone troopers or anything, and it was just too good not to use. And they heard that and loved it, and so then I think we were the first licensed music to be used in a Star Wars property. After John Williams.
Wow.
So that was kind of cool. That was our little like claim to fame that we actually got. Obviously it was not in a movie or something, but it was still in an official Lucasfilm or LucasArts at the time release. So that was nice. And because of that, we got flown over to San Francisco to meet the LucasArts people, and got to stay at the ranch and give them all the tours and stuff. And play again. We got to play. They built us a stage on the sound stage at ILM. We did a sort of a show just for the ILM stuff, which was all around that time that we did. Actually, I'm wearing you can see it, you can't hear it, but on Zoom I'm wearing the Clones hoodie. But
We can vouch for him. He's wearing his clothes. Actually.
but yeah, we got to visit and stay at Skywalker Ranch and play at ILM. And when we turned up on the afternoon of ILM, we were like, the building was empty, the soundstage was empty. We got in there, and two guys who were like chaperoning us around said, yeah, just go, you can make yourself at home. Got in the dressing room, and there was a couple of silver crates, and us being nosy, we're like, I wonder what's in there. And we noticed that on it, there was like Spanish writing on the outside of it. So they had just been flown back from Spain, where I think they'd done some like shooting for Revenge of the Sith. And it was inside the crates was Anakin and Obi-Wan's uniforms, or like their Jedi gear. So very quickly, me and Rick, our drummer, got into them. And he was dressed up in Obi-Wan's robes, and I was in Anakin's like Jedi garb. And we started running around the inside of this big soundstage, loving it, and there's like a remote control R2 as well. And then security arrived for the day, and we're like, hold on a second, what are you guys doing? Who are you even? They didn't even know who we were. And there was phone calls back to the ranch in a bit of a panic. And we were okay because we got told we were allowed to do it, wear the stuff. But the two guys who were looking after us, I think they got in trouble. It was all brushed under the carpet, and they basically said, as long as the photographs don't end up on social media ever, then you're all right. So those photographs have still never been seen by anyone.
What's that giant canvas I see in the background?
Yeah.
And I talk about living the dream. That's in the past 5 minutes. You've mentioned the two bucket list gigs I want to do: playing at a rap party and playing in Skywalker Ranch.
Well, it was ILM, not quite the ranch.
Oh, but you stayed at the ranches.
Yeah, and we stayed at the ranch, and then on another occasion, around the same kind of time as it was around 2005, just before Revenge of the Sith dropped, there was a MTV promo screening, advanced screening of Revenge of the Sith. So they brought in a bunch of celebrities like Macaulay Culkin and whatever, people in bands. Because I'd made some friends there from the previous visits, they were like, oh, you got to come. So that was cool. I went and hung out again. And so they were kind of short. They were a little bit short of staff that day, because there were so many people come in for the screening, and they were trying to give tours to everyone. There was like a lot of MTV people there and competition winners and things. And actually George was there. I got to meet him again that time. Well, someone on that day just went, oh, you've been given a tour around the ranch house a number of times, so you can just take those guys up and show them around. So I ended up showing people around the ranch, not really, not like I was staff or anything, but it was a bit weird.
Mental.
And then there was the screening itself, and that was kind of cool.
making all our listeners feel really old, Macaulay Culkin just turned 40 a couple of days ago.
Yeah, he sat like the row behind us whenever we were watching around to the set.
Did he have a booster seat?
No, but he did have his girlfriend at the time, who's like now a really famous actress. I can't remember her name, but she's like a Hollywood A-lister now.
Oh, crikey. That's going to bug me. You have to find out who that is back in the...
Yeah.
Who was Macaulay Culkin dating 15 years ago? A running theme on our show is the 6 degrees of Martin Keeler section. I think we are now officially sponsored by Martin Keeler because we mention him every episode because we love the man so much. And we're exploring, obviously, how people got to know Martin Keeler. So how did you get to know Martin? And on that subject, obviously, you headlined the hashtag Cantina gig back in July 2016 for Celebration Europe 3.
I think it was around 2014. We had been recording an album called Cabano at the time. And part of that process, we had opened up the kind of the final recording session, which was going to be all strings, and it was recorded in London. That fans could come, like it was a small amount of fans could come to the actual recording session and sort of like watch it and just hang out. And I believe that was the first day I met Martin. I might have met him before, but that was the first time I was aware of him and sort of got chatting to him because he was quite friendly with our manager at the time. So I met him then, and then not too long afterwards, I realized that he was we had a mutual friend called Jed Shepherd who I'd known for years off the Ash message board. And they were mates, so I think just from hanging out with Jed, I got to meet Martin again, and then we sort of like realized that we were like massive Star Wars dorks. And then Jed and Martin started to sort of like come up with this idea of the Cantina show because I guess Celebration was in London that year, and they wanted to do like a sort of like a pre-convention, like almost like a launch part, not like an unofficial launch party, but make it sort of like a music gig. And obviously you were there as well, and they tried to bring in as many sort of like rope in as many Star Wars people as they could, and that was a fun event. But Jed who worked with Martin on that, he is now like his star is like shooting, and he's on his way to like Hollywood soon because they just had that smash hit with Host, the Zoom horror film, which just blew up a few weeks ago.
It's brilliant. I think I mentioned that in the last show, didn't I?
Yeah.
We played another mutual friend of Jed's on the show last week. Mentioned it's an incredible film, and yeah, I can understand why his star is definitely rising. And every day now there's a new announcement about a new film project he's working on, or they've got a deal here or a deal there. It's like, wow.
I know. And whenever we did our last studio album, we went out to this remote island off the coast of Ireland. Not the Skelligs, which is a different island called, I can't even remember the name of it. But it's just not far from Dublin. And Jed came out, we just hung out there for like a weekend and shot lots of weird stuff. And we were like sharing our bedroom, and he just sort of like told me about like 15 different movie ideas that he had, and every single one of them was amazing. And I was just like, it was fun just to hear it.
Yeah, absolute legend. I'm looking forward to see what he comes up with next. And Dawn of the Death was great as well, and talented man, definitely.
Hi, I'm Toby Jetson, and you're listening to Panther Tracks.
We touched on it a little bit earlier, the lives of musicians have been massively affected by the pandemic, and as you said, Ash's plans for the year have kind of been shot down in flames. So how have you been filling your time?
At the start of the year, we were on like a European tour, and we got through about a third of it whenever all of the sort of like the different lockdowns started happening around Europe, and we had to sort of like dash from Norway back through Scandinavia, across Germany, and then back to through France to the UK, trying to get back before like the borders were actually closing like a couple of hours after we left each country. And it was like the bus driver was freaking out because he didn't want to like end up stranded somewhere in Europe and not be able to get home.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a mad dash across Europe to get back. And then once we got back, it was definitely about a 2-week delay before the UK went into an actual lockdown.
Yeah.
But from that point, we were just the same as everybody else, just watching Tiger King and doing that. I was in Northumberland for about the first 2.5 months of the lockdown, and then I went back to the States for a couple of months, and I've just come back again 2 weeks ago, back to Blythe, which is kind of where I'm based at the moment, whenever I'm in the UK. And I do have a lockup here, so I've got a lockup in Blythe, and I've got another lockup back in in Jersey, full of all the Star Wars toys. And one of the nice things about Lockup was I had just like hours and hours and hours to be able to like pull these boxes out of storage and sort through them, because I had so much stuff collected over the years that I honestly didn't know what I had, and that was fun to do that.
Like Nerd Christmas.
And it was. I mean, you collect this stuff and it piles up and piles up and piles up, and you just lose track of it. And so I actually did start to catalog stuff, because people had often asked me, you know, what is your collection worth? And I just didn't have a clue. I still don't know because I haven't valued it, but I've got an idea of what's there, which is a starting point.
Yeah, apparently there's a couple of really good apps.
Yeah, I find one of those, yeah.
Yeah, Toy Box, I think it's one of them.
I think that's the one I've got. Yeah, and it kind of bases the prices off like sold listings on eBay and things like that.
I've got the magical Keeler spreadsheet. He was kind enough to share with me, so that's what I've been using to track missing parts of the collections.
Like that, like vintage or Black Series?
Vintage. I only kind of drop in and out of Black Series, so I just can't afford to keep up with it. It's just coming out so fast.
This year's been brutal with all the pre-orders. It's just so much. Yeah, do we want to go down the rabbit hole of collecting yet, or is there other stuff we want to talk about?
I think that's kind of where we were going to move into next. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a little bit aware of your collecting, but for everyone else who's listening, tell us about your collecting in terms of obviously vintage and newer stuff. And
I mean, as a kid, I was born in '77, so by the time Empire Strikes Back came out, all of those toys were in the stores, and I was just at that right age to sort of start getting those toys. And I mean, some of my earliest memories are of things like getting an AT-AT and getting an X-Wing, and by the time Return of the Jedi came out, it was like a proper obsession, and I think that's some of my most favourite childhood memories, was like those summers just playing with all those Return of the Jedi toys and the excitement of all the new figures coming out. I had that collection from my childhood, but like a lot of people, I think their parents at some point put them in car boot seals and it just all disappeared. You know, I think there was a point whenever Transformers became big and everybody was into Transformers, and Star Wars got left in the closet, and my mom was like, well, if you're not playing with it, it's going to go in a car boot seal, and that's, you know, it all disappeared, which sucked. But it was a few years later, well, probably like a decade later, whenever there was the first rumors of like George going to tinker with like the special editions and things, and there was like, they started bringing out the comics and the novels, like the Thrawn trilogy and stuff. That's whenever I sort of like found all this. It was like the first new material since, I guess, the Ewok movies. Kind of reignited my sort of like love for Star Wars. I remember thinking, oh, I wish I had all my old toys again, but I didn't have any of it. And I think there was one day I was in the newsagents and I saw this magazine called Model and Collector's Mart. My dad would get it because it was mostly about model trains. And he was like a little train enthusiast. And in the back of that, there was like adverts for like vintage toys. And someone had a full page ad for Star Wars toys. And I was like, no way. And I started looking at the ad and seeing like the list of all the stuff. I was like, oh, I'd love to get some of that. And that kind of like opened my eyes to the fact that there was actually a market for this stuff in the UK. But I didn't know anyone in Ireland who was selling it. This is before the new material. This is way before the Thrawn books. And me and my dad got the Yellow Pages, which is, you know, just a phone directory, and we called around to all the toy shops in Ireland. And most, I would say 95% of them said, Star Wars, we don't have any of that stuff. That was long gone. There was a handful of places that had a bunch of old inventory that they just hadn't got rid of. And we took a trailer and drove around the countryside, and a lot of them were from these little small Toy Master stores, little tiny toy shops, and quite a few of them were owned by farmers who had their stock room was actually on their farms. So we ended up driving to some of these farms and finding sheds with all these cardboard boxes covered in chicken shit and stuff. And you'd walk in and you'd be, oh, this doesn't look like it's going to be any good. And open these old tatty cardboard boxes covered in hay and stuff. And inside it was factory sealed Y-wings and B-wings and things. And it was like a gold mine. And there was like boxes and boxes of the stuff. And we were like, get it all, just take it. And we got it for very little buttons. And then, because I got all that stuff, I was able to use that I was able to trade that to some of the UK traders, and then basically swap for the stuff that I didn't have or that I couldn't find. So I was able to build up a collection, like a brand new collection from scratch. And then also just tracking down a lot of friends who had still got their collections but didn't want them. It was almost like they were ripe for the picking because they didn't really know that it wasn't worth anything, and they just didn't want it. They didn't care. So I was able to build up a pretty big stock of loose action figures, and then a really brilliant collection of boxed stuff, which was all brand new. So I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure that I've probably got one of the best collections in Ireland anyway.
Nice.
I don't really go too deep in investigating who else is out there and who's got what, but pretty happy with what I've got.
I'm Gareth Edwards, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks Radio.
Hoping to display it sometime, or
I just don't have any. Don't have anywhere. It's like a lot of it's in storage. I'll bring certain bits and pieces of it out and sort of like set them up and play them or whatever, and then put them back in storage. I've got pretty much everything vintage is in the UK, and then I've got like the early Hasbro stuff up until about, I would say, Attack of the Clones. That's all kind of based in the UK, and then I moved to the States, so everything from end of Attack of the Clones on, but in the US. I've never had everything in the one place at any one point, but someday maybe it will get displayed somewhere.
in terms of the sort of newer stuff, are you collecting Black Series yourself, or any other?
I was a late adopter to the Black Series because I've got all of the vintage collection stuff from. I've basically got all of the Hasbro stuff from whenever they started releasing it again, and I really loved the vintage collection. And then whenever he brought out the Black Series, I was like, do I really want 6-inch scale? It's like I didn't have the same nostalgia towards that scale because it's not the same as what you played with when you were younger. I kind of deliberately avoided it, and I was like, just also because I didn't have room for the stuff. I'm just going to like be buying the stuff and putting it in storage. It was a bit of a, couldn't really justify it. But then I did get sucked into it probably a couple of years ago, around whenever The Force Awakens came out. So I missed the orange and blue wave, and then I sort of got into it when they went red. But I then went back and got the earlier ones.
It's a bit of a dangerous collection, isn't it?
Oh, it's like a total rabbit hole, isn't it? And
as you said earlier, this year has been particularly fierce with releases. Coming out all the time. It's like, oh my word, can't keep.
And now they're basically like reissuing everything with like photoreal paint. So they're just gonna reissue everything with like a new paint app.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like Rogue One's gonna be next year and whatever else.
Yeah. Talking of the newer stuff, did you see the recent Hasbro Fan First panel and they talking about 3 3/4 inch? Does it Celebrate the Saga? Yeah, the sort of like the 5 POA ones. Yeah. I mean, they would have been an easy pass for me, but then they added in those like droids that can't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
So that gives me a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
Because I do want to get like one of everything, and I don't really care too much if there's like a slight paint variant. But if it's like an all new figure, then I'm gonna want it. Yeah, that seems to be the overriding thing with most people I've heard talking about them. They're like, yeah, right, I could have forgotten another Luke, Han, Leia, but then they put that in there. You're like, oh.
Must donate, must.
So, but they know what they're doing. It's kind of like
they know what they're doing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit evil, but I guess that's capitalism.
One of the things that you've been collecting is custom vintage style figures. That's the dangerous area you've got me interested in now as well.
Yeah, but I just only like some stuff. I mean, you could definitely fall into that hard, but I'm just sort of like being quite selective so far. Obviously, the Kenner style Mando figures that are going around, those look great. I've got Mando and I've got like the Gideon, and I haven't got Quill yet or the Armorer, but they drop them on Instagram and they sell out within seconds. So and you just don't know when. And even whenever you're there, like on the second, to try and get one, they'll do something like they'll drop it like 2 minutes early, and then you're like, oh, for fuck's sake. I did get like a really nice Jabba's Palace Leia, because obviously she was never released in the Kenner line. That was from Outer Rim Creations. That was fantastic. I mean, just looks and feels like old school Kenner. And what else did I get recently? I sort of like signed up for the Clan Strike Back thing. What's it called? 13. They put out Thrawn a few months ago.
Okay.
They look really good. They've only just dropped the Thrawn, but there's like 13 additional New Hope figures. Like Aunt Beru, Uncle Owen, I can't remember who else. There's like a Sand Trooper. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Yeah, if you Google Fan Strike Back, you'll find it. They're still in pre-production on most of them. The Thrawn has been made and sort of like shipped. He was like a bonus figure, but the rest are in the works. And well, there's also get the custom hand stormtroopers and stuff like that. Not going too deep on it. And also, I guess you can go really deep on the sort of the Black Series customs. There's a lot of those on Instagram.
Yeah.
But I've kind of stayed away from those customs so far. Just sticking to the Kenner style ones.
You know, there's enough Black Series on the market as it is without diving into all the customs that people are making as well.
Oh, you could actually there is one thing I've been getting done custom, and you know about this. You've seen the pictures of it. The big Black Series scale Razor Crest.
Oh yes, yeah, stunning.
It is phenomenal. Like, a friend of ours who is a droid builder is 3D printing it, and it is going to be magical.
Stuff he's worked. I mean, his Johnny 5 and the stuff he does is just stunning. And the Soundwave. Oh,
Yeah, the life-size Soundwave is incredible.
right, this Razor Crest. The pictures he's been sharing of that, it's just unbelievable. Can't wait to see the finished thing.
Yeah, I'm going to like get it properly painted and add sounds and lights and stuff to it. I think they might end up doing like a vintage or the vintage collection Razor Crest, but I don't know if they'll do like it could be some time before they ever would do like a Black Series one.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Unless it was to go down the HasLab road, possibly, because I think once people see a lot of those custom Razor Crests on Instagram and things, they'll be like, I'm sure there'll be demand for it.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what HasLab bring out this year.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be announced next month.
Yeah, we keep angling various groups that I partake in other Fanthas. We keep saying what would be ace would be like the old Palatoy Death Star playset, so the circle thing, but bigger and not made of cardboard, made of something a bit more durable, and obviously instead of
I've got the not the Palatoy Death Star. I got the US one.
Yeah, the Palatoy one is
just cardboard, isn't it?
Yeah, it was just literally like 3 bits of cardboard and a bit of plastic sat on top with and like the images and stuff on it were fairly.
But I've heard that some. There's definitely rumors that Death Star is one of the possible.
Yeah, there's been supposedly leaked photos of the Kenner Death Star, the US one, with a bit of a vintage collection badge on it, but nobody's 100% sure whether that's a genuine leaked photo or somebody's just sort of photoshopped it.
I'm trying to think. I personally, a thing that would get me most excited for a HasLab would be something like the Ghost, because it's not been done before.
Yeah.
And if they could make the Ghost like the Big Millennium Falcon, which is in my opinion the best toy that's ever been made, and if they could do something that good with the Ghost, that would be incredible. And then give us like vintage collection Rebels, yeah.
Rebels, yeah.
Rebels, that would be like everyone would go mad for that. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to just thinking about technology, the way things are going. Obviously, with like the voice being used for the Mandalorian and stuff, and you can get screens quite cheaply these days, like tablets and stuff. You could almost get like a mini version of the voice with some in the same way of the Death Star thing. Bits of plastic surrounding like a little screen that changes, and you can change the.
Yeah.
You get tablets for like pennies these days.
Yeah, like do the screencraft thing. Mini screencraft with 3 iPads.
Yeah, well, no, maybe not iPads, but iPads.
Like trying to make like what do they call it?
The voice.
What do they ship the Mandalorian? They call use like a bunch of iPads to try to create like the
volume, not the voice.
Not the volume. Yeah.
So I'm calling the voice.
You're thinking of that.
Will I Am's going to pop up and.
I did some like toy photography. I just like messing around whenever I get them out for Instagram. But you just using backdrops on your laptop might be quite good.
Yeah.
Using green screen to good use.
No, not even using green screen. Just using put the photographs on your laptop and then just like set them up right in front of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember some other like collecting anecdotes, but I do remember when I was a kid, I had my first really traumatic experience whenever my parents had taken us for like summer holidays to a caravan park somewhere up on the Antrim coast. It was like Castle Rock or somewhere like that. And I had like lunchbox full of action figures. It wasn't a huge lunchbox, but it probably could have held about 50 or 60 Star Wars figures. And I went and I was playing with some kid in like some playground, and we were like, he had like 2 or 3 figures of his own, and then I had like this lunchbox full of figures. And I think my mom shouted and called me to go get my dinner, and I said, okay, I'll be back after I got my dinner. I was going to rush back, eat my dinner, and then go back to play again. I came back and the kid had fucked off and stolen all my toys. And that was a real like life lesson and sort of like not trusting people. It was hard. I was like,
especially with Star Wars toys.
I was like completely devastated, and I remember me and my dad marched around the whole caravan park trying to find this kid. We couldn't find him; he was long gone. And I think he was pretty pissed off because he had obviously spent quite a lot of money buying these. He used to buy me like one every. He came back every Thursday with like a new toy, or a new Star Wars figure. It was like the highlight of the week when he'd come home. And yeah, that probably for a couple of years worth of investment on his part just disappeared, and just like that. But over time, we were able to replace them.
It all worked out in the end.
It was fun replacing them all.
Now I've got so many, I really don't have anywhere to put them.
Just pop them in a box, send them up to me. It's fine. I'll look after them. I've got plenty of lunch boxes. I've got 3 boys.
I actually had a thought that there must be quite a few collectors who are in a similar position who have got so much stuff that you just don't know what to do with it. And I thought you could come up with like a collective of collectors. I mean, you'd obviously itemize your stuff so you know whose was what, but like almost like do like a toy museum somewhere, and you could create like gigantic dioramas of all this stuff and have it on display somewhere where people would actually maybe pay to come and see it.
Yeah, there's been an exhibition, again obviously pre-COVID, called May the Toys Be With You, which is a UK collector. It's primarily his entire collection. A guy called Matt Fox. I did an interview with him for Making Tracks, one of our other podcasts, and he's got loads and loads and loads of vintage stuff, but he's also big into sort of film posters and stuff, and that was like a touring museum exhibit, so it'd been quite a few different places around the UK. It was due to be in Great Yarmouth, I think, for most of the summer, but obviously lockdown put pay to that. But he got one of the cool centerpieces. The installation I saw was he'd actually got the HasLab sail barge, but then got all the vintage figures.
All the counter figures set up on the barge?
Yeah, set up on it. So, and he'd also got some custom stuff that was like prototypes. So there was the prototype Sand Trooper, which was basically the same as the vintage Stormtrooper, but just with the shoulder pauldron on, and things like that. And there was a Bantha and a 2-seater X-Wing, which was a bit weird.
I think there was, wasn't there like in the sort of like at the end of the Power of the Force, there were some prototype made with like a 2-cockpit X-Wing?
Yeah, so that was one of the ones, and it had been like mocked up from the original Palatoy Kenner thing, and spookily, it had been painted black.
Yeah. And
this was obviously way before Force Awakens and Poe Dameron's X-Wing. But that was a sight. We did a couple of different trips to see the exhibition. It was in Worcester, in the Midlands, last summer. And I think we did 2 or 3 trips in the end. I think I did opening day, closing day, and a couple in between.
I really love what Hasbro have done with the new Mandalorian stuff. I mean, they've been very slow to get the vintage collection Mandalorian things out. I mean, we've only got Cara and Mando, really.
Remnant.
But those two, and the Remnant Stormtrooper, but those 2 figures are stunning. So we need to hurry up and get the rest of the Season 1 cast out. Customizers are beating them to it. I mean, there's fantastic custom blurgs, and I don't know what Hasbro will play on it as far as taking so long to get what we call a core product out.
You're listening to Fantha Tracks. Flip through the galaxy of literature with Cannon Fodder hosts Brian Cameron, Matt Booker, Mark Newbold, and Mark Mulcaster.
Count me in.
Spin round the rim with Desert Planet Discs. Your musical journey through the space lanes with your hosts, Carl Bayless and Greg Robertson.
The hottest tunes this side of Mos Eisley. Happy!
Get the latest news, interviews, reviews, and much more on Making Tracks with your hosts, Mark Newbold and Mark Mulcaster.
Like an Ewok battle wagon out of control.
Join hosts Claire Henry and a rotating panel of guest hosts for the podcast that's full of hope. Planet Leia.
I love you. I know.
It's time to head south with the Fantha from Down Under, Adam O'Brien.
Oh, g'day, mate. How you going?
Start your engines with Paul Naylor and Mark Newbold as they lift the hood on starships, airspeeders, swoops, capital ships, and more from across the cosmos. And for everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video, and social media feeds. Bookmark fanthatracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
I think there is a lot to be said. Obviously, the mainline film stuff didn't really sell particularly well.
For the last two films?
Well, even Force Awakens, I don't think, the 3 3/4 figures did masses of business for.
That's why the entertainers got shelves and shelves and shelves
of the film, and they're knocking them out at 2-3 quid a pop. So
I think maybe part of that is cultural as well, though. I think that kids play on their iPads and they play computer games and Xbox and whatever. Playing with toys is probably just not what they do. Yeah. Well, not to the same extent that we did whenever we were young.
Yeah.
40-year-olds now playing with them.
Yeah.
We're not.
The backlash with the films, they probably hung back from doing stuff on a TV series because they just didn't know whether it was going to hit home. And then I think people will agree it has a big way.
Any of the most recent vintage collection waves they put out in the States, it just disappears. Like straight away, it's gone.
Yeah.
And even the big box stores like Target and Walmart, they get very small quantities, but they sell out instantly.
Yeah.
The Black Series, some of that stuff is peg warming, but
not Constable Zuvio.
Not Constable Zuvio.
There's the question: do you have a container for Martin full of Zuvios from the US?
No, I did. He did give me the tour of the Zuvium, which was fun.
I've been told I need to go back because there's new stuff, so I'm going to book myself a second tour.
Well, I don't know if I can handle a second tour.
I thought you guys were writing the theme song for the Zuvium.
Are we? Oh.
No.
We better get to it.
Speaking of the modern Disney era, moves nicely along to the next question, Carl.
Yeah, obviously, end of last year, we saw the end of the Skywalker saga. Now it's brought to a close, or apparently brought to a close, that whole branch of Star Wars and that storyline. What are your thoughts on the final 3 films and certainly the way it wrapped in the end?
I enjoyed all of them. I mean, if we want to go deep, there's things you can tear apart any of them. But if you just take them for what they are and just not try and be too precious, they're still good. I mean, I think everyone can see that the execution of the trilogy not being properly planned out in advance was, I would say that was the thing I had the biggest problem with.
Yeah.
The fact that they basically had to go and retcon half of what they did in The Last Jedi and for The Rise of Skywalker. That was just bad planning. But I guess the Disney shareholders were demanding that those movies had to come out quickly, and they just didn't probably have the time to sort of set them up properly. That is just the reality of capitalism.
Yeah.
And probably because they spent so much money buying it that they couldn't wait 5 years to develop it properly.
Yeah, that's obviously the thing with, although George does have his detractors, that's the one thing you can say about the first 2 trilogies is that the overarching storyline was already there.
Yeah, I really did love The Force Awakens, and I mean, I kind of went, really, another Death Star whenever that happened, but
yeah,
it was kind of like a bit of a reboot, but I did enjoy it. I did like the fact that for 2 years we were wondering who Rey was, that was like really exciting. I did enjoy The Last Jedi, but I've got big problems with it at the same time. My number one thing was if Yoda could interfere in the natural world from whatever the spirit plane or whatever you want to call it, then if Force Ghosts could do that, then they could like interfere at any point. And why wouldn't they have done it in the key moments in the past? It kind of just like ruined everything for me.
Yeah.
It was like that was just a big no-no. That to keep them separate. They can't like turn up and like whack someone or like create lightning. And then I guess JJ made Luke grab the lightsaber in Rise of Skywalker, which I guess they were trying to add some sort of continuity there, but that kind of broke it for me. And then I guess the way they dealt with Luke wasn't ideal, but because I think we had all read the Thrawn books and we had read a lot of the comics and we had like ideas of what Luke was going to do in the whole sequel trilogy, and then that was subverted in inverted commas.
Yeah, I kind of quite liked the grumpy old hermit Luke. There was an element to that I just thought, yeah, what he's.
It's kind of true, people get old and they get grumpy, and that is what happens in real life. But I guess we just didn't expect that. That's not what most of us were thinking.
Yeah.
Especially when you waited so long for something. And
yeah.
Reading the Colin Trevorrow script idea, I would have liked to see that movie, I think.
So is there going to be like a Snyder Cut campaign for the Trevorrow film to get
that and the Lord and Miller Solo?
Yeah. I really enjoyed the Solo movie. I loved that.
Yeah.
It's a great film. Yeah.
I just thought it was fun. It didn't take itself too seriously, and it had more of the kind of like adventure romp that the original trilogy had, that kind of feel that the prequels didn't have and that the sequels didn't really have. That, which is kind of why I like Rebels as well, because you feel like you're part of this little gang.
Yeah.
The prequels didn't have that kind of like gang feel, like you weren't sort of like looking in on this gang on their adventure. It was just big and expansive and like this massive galactic story. And they didn't really capture it because in the sequels they split everyone up all the time, so they were never really all together.
Yeah.
I think that's what some of the sort of appeal of Rebels is. And they've kind of like tapped into that again with Mandalorian, because you've kind of got a little bit of a gang, certainly in the sort of like the whole arc, whenever you've got in Mando and Cara and IG-11 and Karga all together and Baby Yoda. It's kind of like this little like group, even though it might be a short-lived gang. But the Mando kind of reminds me of Return of the Jedi in a way. I don't know why it just does. Probably
timeline.
Same timeline, yeah. Almost directly after it.
Hey, this is Royish Goodlooks, and you're listening to Desert Planet Discs.
I think I actually got, as far as the sequels goes, got really kind of depressed last year. Just watching the sort of like how the fandom became really like divided and politicized and just nasty, and I don't know, that kind of soured me for a while. I was just like, what is wrong with these people? But I think Mando has been like really good for healing some of that, whatever that was.
Yeah.
Because whether they were, whether you were on one side or the other side, pro-Disney or the anti-Disney Star Wars, or, Fandom Menace or whatever faction you were part of, most people seem to love Mandalorian, which is good. And I think a lot of people still love the Clone Wars and Rebels, and Ahsoka's being used perfectly to sort of like tie Clone Wars into Rebels, and then the fact that a lot of the new Disney Plus shows are going to be spinning off and they're all going to be intertwined, whether it's an Ahsoka series into the Mando, and then her and Sabine going off and looking for Ezra, or like a Boba Fett. I mean, there's so many leaks and rumors about the different series that are in production, that if they all intertwine and it's just like one big expansive Filoni-verse, it's going to be amazing. I'm really excited for what's coming next. I think
that was a perfect word, Filoni-verse. I like that.
Yeah, I think that Lucasfilm has probably learned a lot of lessons from the sequels, and it's going to be exciting to see what Feige does if he comes into whatever he's producing, and then also Tika. And I think they kind of talked about like the High Republic, but I kind of want them to do like the Old Republic. I want to see Revan. I want to see Revan in the movies.
Yeah,
they've already teased him in Rebels, was it? I remember seeing Revan in one of the animated shows. Oh, it was cool.
Clone Wars season 6. The last
Yeah,
mission
there was that little bit.
Darth Bane and
Darth Bane.
Being Revan together. So they've made him canon. So hopefully we'll get to see him in like live action at some point.
Yeah, Hasbro have already got the figure mold, so.
Well, yeah.
Oh yeah, they need to come up with like a new updated vintage collection one.
Yeah.
Is there a character from Legends, like the expanded universe days, that you'd like to see that hasn't been brought in?
Yeah, one of my absolute favorites is the comic arc of Knights of the Old Republic, which was Zane Carrick and Jarrell and LB. Was it the droid, the big droid? That's one of those like lift loader droids, and that had a brilliant story behind that whole like comic, which was kind of like where the Jedi were like killing off these Padawans because there was like corrupt Jedi, and then this little, again, it was almost like that sort of Rebels kind of trope where there were a misfit gang on this one ship and they were getting hunted down by Jedi in this sort of like story arc. But I love that whole comic, and it kind of ran for quite a while. But if they are ever to do something like that would be cool. But I think they'll borrow from Legends and do like a new spin on it.
One thing I'd quite like to see would be for them to do like, and I think it's possible because they're doing like Marvel What If as a TV series for Disney Plus, is like a Legends animated show or animated movies. So you could take like Shadows of the Empire and turn it into like an animated movie, and even get some of the original cast back to do voices. And
if they made the Thrawn trilogy a movie, people would freak out for that, I think.
They would go mad, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I think obviously they brought Thrawn massively back into canon with the first Thrawn trilogy, and in fact, as we record, I think it's next week.
The new book comes out?
The first book of the second trilogy is due to come. So they're obviously backing him, and obviously brought him into Rebels.
They know which characters the fans love, and Thrawn is one of them. So it's only a matter of time before we see like live action Thrawn, I reckon. So, and if they're going to be doing all these interweaving Disney Plus series, then I know that one of the rumors was like Thrawn will be part of that like Search for Ezra series.
That makes sense.
But
that would be cool.
Benedict Cumberbatch was like, he would be perfect as Thrawn.
Oh yes. Yeah. Yeah, well,
if I was him, I'd be walking a bit with a blue face all the time, just to.
Yeah, he should just like walking around in blue face. And I mean, there's a relationship there with Marvel and with obviously with Disney. So
yeah,
get him in.
And of course, the whole psyche of the way Thrawn operates is very in keeping with the Sherlock adaptation.
True. I want to see. I mean, there was the whole like make Solo 2 happen thing, but I would love to see that same cast continue that story.
Yeah.
On Disney Plus, because I think it would be even better on Disney Plus than it would be if it was like a Solo 2.
Yeah.
Because you get a bit more character development, and they've ticked all the boxes for what we know about Han already, so they can go and do new stories. There was like those old novels from years ago, like the Han and Lando novels.
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of things they can sort of like borrow from.
Yeah, and I think as well, the essence of all those shows, I mean, they've been saying again,
for years they talked about doing like a sort of like an underworld show, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean that 1313 and the work.
That would Gorgeous Days.
Yeah,
that would be
30 odd episodes written.
Basically, like what happens, because it's kind of like the same territory as the Mandalorian, so you could end up like what happens in Tatooine after sort of like the power vacuum after Jabba is like gone. What's going to happen there? But before that, I guess we could see the whole, young Han and Jabba setting up. I mean, because they were kind of friends at the beginning, weren't they?
Yeah.
In the scene that was cut from A New Hope, Jabba seemed kind of fond of Han. He was his boy, but he couldn't let him get away with it because he'd have to make an example, or he would not be able to control the rest of his crime gang. So it'd be good to kind of see Jabba in a sort of a different light as being on the same team.
Han Mabuki.
Yeah, the successful smuggling runs that Han does, rather than just the abject failures and botch jobs, and
So, do you have what's your favourite Star Wars film, and off the back of that, favourite character? What's to choose from there?
Favorite Star Wars film? Favorite movies? Probably I would just consider the original trilogy like one movie. If you were to go for, I mean, probably Empire's got like the best individual scenes, but then the whole end of the Emperor in Return of the Jedi is like perfect. So
Yeah. I think it's something to do with the age as well. I think I was 5 when Jedi came out, and I remember seeing it in the cinema, and I remember playing with the toys, so it's got a really kind of very fond memories of Jedi.
Yeah, I saw something not so long ago that said that it's almost scientific that if you were a certain age whenever Empire came out, then you were going to hate Return of the Jedi, but if you were like younger, then you would love Return of the Jedi because you weren't offended by the Ewoks. And it's almost like a down the line break from if you're a certain age.
No, I'm a slightly older vintage, so I was 5 when New Hope came out, which obviously makes me 8 when Empire came out, so it was like 11 when Jedi came out. And I think
were you just like a little bit too old for Ewoks?
No, because I was one of those kids that was so obsessed with Star Wars that, a bit like I am now, a big kid obsessed with Star Wars, the fact that there was new Star Wars was just the best.
Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith, Star Wars fan, Fantha Tracks fan.
Yeah, I mean, when the prequels came out, I remember getting a bootleg copy of Phantom Menace, and it was like from somewhere where they had like a screener and it was a garbage video copy of someone had a camcorder in the cinema. But I probably watched that about 50 times before it actually came out. Not before it came out, but like before I could see it and repeat times.
Yeah.
And you give it a bit of time, you sort of like look back and appreciate it in a way that, because I mean, everybody had problems with most people had problems with Jar Jar, didn't they? And but I don't find him. But it's kind of weird now that there's a new Black Series figure of him coming out, and everybody's like, I need that.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a newfound love for Jar Jar, which is bizarre.
Yeah, and I think I never really had a problem with Phantom. I always kind of looked at it of, you start watching a new Netflix series or whatever, and it's like the first episode is all about setting all these things in motion. And I've always drawn the parallel with, you look at all the gag lines in the original trilogy and it's all 3PO. You hadn't really got 3PO at the start of that, so they gave all the gag lines to Jar Jar.
Yes, but some of the things about 3PO, that was one of my biggest disappointments in prequels, especially Attack of the Clones, was that 3PO just didn't have any funny lines. He wasn't funny.
Yeah.
He got some good lines in The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
And even in The Last Jedi, whenever he goes to things like princesses, or he was like making sarcastic comments about Leia. He was kind of they tried to make him like all slapstick or something in Attack of the Clones. Just didn't work.
Oh, it's such a drag.
Yeah.
No, that's nonsense. Yeah, Attack of the Clones is my least favorite Star Wars film.
I think I would agree on that.
It's got great moments in it, but overall the dialogue, especially
whenever the clones, and Yoda arrive in the Geonosis, that is kind of like awesome, but the first 2/3 of the film is hard work at times.
Yeah,
definitely. So, how about a favourite character?
You have a character? If I had to pick one character, probably R2, just because he's always in the mix. He's always there. And he's always kind of saves them whenever they need it. Whether it's like the trash compactor, or he takes a hit from Vader and survives, which is pretty. Yeah, I think probably R2. But I do really, really love Ahsoka, and I think that what they were trying to do with the character of Rey, which they didn't execute just quite right, and that's nothing bad to say about Daisy, because I think she's great. But I think there's a love for the character of Ahsoka that they didn't quite nail with Rey. And I think because seems like they're going to focus a lot on Ahsoka for the Filoniverse and what's coming next, I think that things are looking really good.
And this week, obviously, we just had the release of the Hot Toys images. It's like another temptation.
Yeah, don't go there. I'm not going there. I've got like the new Black Series one ordered, but I'm not going Hot Toys, no way.
I didn't go in on the Rebels Ahsoka. And then when they brought out the Clone Wars one, I was
Yeah.
like, no, that's the one. That's
what I've got ordered. Yeah.
That Black Suit.
And the good thing about the character as well, she sort of like spans the prequels, Clone Wars. I think they're going to like tie her into like, well, we kind of know they're going to tie her into Mando, so that kind of covers kind of almost like original trilogy area.
Yeah.
And then going forward into like, I guess whatever the search for Ezra is going to be.
She's one of the voices, I guess, at the end of Rise of Skywalker as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It ties in nicely.
And she also started out as like really hated.
Yeah.
People hated her whenever they dropped the first Clone Wars movie. They were like, what the hell?
Sky Guy. Yeah.
Hey, Sky Guy.
Yeah.
Watch it, Snips.
Snips, yeah. But credit to George and Filoni, they stuck with the character and made her like fundamental as the whole Clone Wars. So
yeah. And again, that's the sort of parallel with Anakin in a way, you know, the sort of the annoying little kid that starts out, and when you step back and look at the whole story arc for the character, you kind of go, oh, right, yeah.
Luke was not that cool in A New Hope. I mean, he's pretty whiny as well.
Yeah. I was going to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters.
Yeah, and then he's sucking the tip of the T-Car.
So it is that. You know,
in the end.
Again, you know, the whole hero's journey.
I do hope that down the road, maybe not for like some time, I hope that we get to see more of Rey. There was like some really great theories about her being pregnant and stuff. It'll probably be a long time before they go back there. But
be interested to see like 20 years down the line, bring her back, some of those guys back.
You know, and like once people have lived with the sequels for a while, they might pick up a bit of a cult following like the prequels do.
Yeah.
I love the character of Kylo. I mean, I thought the Kylo character was incredible. I really, really wanted them to be like sibling rivals. That was my dream, but it didn't happen. I wanted Rey to somehow have been like this long-lost younger sister of Kylo, and that it would have been... I wasn't into the whole Reylo thing, but...
It'd been interesting having them like twins or something, or brother and sister, and...
something like that.
Out with Han, because obviously they broke up.
Yeah. Lots of theory crafting going on. But anyway, the fact that I guess there's kind of a good positive message in the whole idea that your blood family don't define who you are, and you do get to choose the people that matter to you in the end of the day.
Yeah.
That, because not everyone is I would say like lucky or privileged enough to be in like a happy family, you know, like where everything's rosy. So that message I think is a good one.
Yeah, the fact that you can sort of change your destiny based on...
You're not defined by your bloodline.
Yeah. So in terms of Star Wars stories that haven't been told, is there something you'd like to see made into a movie or TV, a character, or you kind of touched a little bit on that, maybe some more Old Republic?
Going back to those early books, whenever they started putting out, after the Thrawn trilogy, they put out like the Tales from the Cantina and the Tales from Jabba's Palace and stuff like that. Some of those short stories were fantastic, and it would be really good to see. I think that was kind of like maybe where the Underworld thing was going to go. Maybe like one-shot stories. They don't have to be a complete series based on a character, but if it was one-shot stories based in and around Jabba's Palace or something like that, that would be cool.
I'd like to see a Max Rebo Band tour film.
Spinal Tap done with Max Rebo.
Max Rebo, yeah.
That would be incredible. Spinal Tap in Star Wars were awesome.
Yeah, there we go. If it gets made, this is where the idea comes.
That would be awesome. But is it like the original Max Rebo Band, or is it the special editions Max Rebo Band?
Boy, I would have to go with the original. It's got to be the original.
Yeah.
It's got to be the original, yeah.
Yeah. Lapty Neck.
Lapty Neck, yeah. Have you ever covered Lapty Neck?
Yeah. Well, they play at most gigs, or I used to play at most gigs.
Oh, I'll have to see that.
Yeah,
I'll look it up on YouTube. I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
There's one from Chicago last year. I did it with Blues Harvest.
Awesome.
We've got a Lapty Neck conga line going, and Museum of Science and Industry, which was quite cool.
Oh, fuck, I'm gonna have to look that up. That sounds brilliant.
It was a strange moment.
Yeah, one of my strangest moments was meeting Carrie Fisher on a flight from LA to New York. This was like years ago. We were out touring the States and we were flying back to New York, and everyone was at the gate, and she was there, and I guess her daughter was like still a baby. What's her name?
Billy Lord.
Billy Lord, yeah, Billy Lord.
Okay.
She was like a toddler. She was like running around at the gate, and everybody was there and knew it was Carrie Fisher. She didn't have a nanny with her, and baby was like just like, you know, all over the place. And so we got on the plane, and I was too scared or starstruck to like go and ask for an autograph or anything. But then about 45 minutes into the flight, I was like, if I don't go and ask for an autograph, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life. and she was, so Billy was running up and down the aisle of the plane, and everyone knew it was Carrie Fisher, but nobody was going to like bother her or like annoy her. I had like one of the Thrawn trilogy books in my bag, and actually it was the comic adaptation of one of the Thrawn trilogy. I think it was like Dark Force Rising. Anyway, it was one that she was on the cover. She was on the cover of the comic, so I sort of like waited until she looked like she was not looking too busy, while she was like watching the kid run around. And I sort of like just jumped up and sort of like walked up behind her and sort of like said, "Excuse me," and she sort of like turned around, and I said, "Could you please sign this?" And I was like, I said sort of, I can't remember exactly what I said, but it was like something like, "I'm really sorry to bother you, but would you mind signing this?" And she went, "Of course." And she just stopped and, you know, personalized it, and like was really, really sweet. And that was that. And I sort of like turned around, and I could see, as I sort of like walked back to my seat, I could see everyone in the plane was like staring at me because they knew it went up.
No.
And I had like the biggest grin on my face. I was like, "Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I got it." And it was just like, I mean, I felt like $1 million after that. It was brilliant.
Cool.
Yeah, they don't make them like that anymore.
No.
Not allowed these days.
So back to Ash. What's next for you guys professionally? I've seen over the last couple of weeks you're getting involved with the Passport Back to Your Roots gigs.
Oh yeah, so I mean, obviously because of the COVID thing, a lot of smaller music venues are like really in serious danger of having to shut down for good because they've not been able to make any money, and I guess there's people still need to pay rent, but there's only so long that businesses can survive before they have to shut down. And the idea is basically to try to raise some money to keep these smaller venues afloat in the interim. And so it's kind of like a raffle. It's only like a £5. It's effectively a donation to buy a ticket for a future gig, because we don't know yet when these gigs are even going to happen, but it's kind of like at some point in the future this gig will happen, and if you donate like £5, then you could win a ticket to it.
Yeah.
It's don't expect to win the ticket to it, but there's a chance that you will, kind of thing. But
yeah,
and so like lots of different bands are supporting like different venues across the country, and Sneaky Pete's in Edinburgh is like one of our drummer's favorite places that he goes to. So we couldn't pick, because of the way contracts work, we couldn't pick a venue back in Belfast because that's like our hometown, but we already have a show scheduled to happen there, so we had to pick somewhere else. So that just seemed like an easy thing to do, and you know, Rick wanted to do that, so we were all cool with it. So at some point we'll do that, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah. And in terms of band career achievements, anything you still have left unfulfilled that you'd like to achieve?
I mean, some of our best shows have been at Reading Festival. We've played there like 10 times, which I think is the record. No other band has like played at Reading that many times. So, but we've headlined certain stages, but we've never headlined the main stage. Yeah. Now, I'm not sort of kidding myself that we'll ever actually headline the main stage, but there was a dream that we've not ever accomplished. It would be to do that, because we just love that festival, and the crowd there always has been really great to us. It's kind of like, you know, we saw the Foo Fighters there. We saw, I mean, a lot of the bands that we sort of worshipped when we were kids. That was where they kind of broke from like Reading Festival.
Yeah.
Nirvana seemed to like it was like a really important in their sort of career path. And
Dave Grohl at Foo Fighters played Glastonbury. Was that last year or the year before? It was like playing Glastonbury and playing Reading, and those being like formative parts of his career in both Nirvana and Foo Fighters. So they obviously have a lasting effect.
So that would be, I mean, it would be great to get. Well, you know, I don't really care if we ever headline there, but it would be a dream come true if we did. But just to be able to like go back there on album cycles, which is, you know, typically every 2 or 3 years we'll get to go back to Reading, which it's always amazing. We have like done the Roundhouse in London. Quite often bands play in London and they play to like kind of, because London's usually spoiled for choice, people that live there get to see bands, like go and see 20 bands on any particular night. Yeah. So I lived in London for 10 years, so I've seen what London crowds can be like. They can be quite standoff and quite like too cool for school, but every time we play London, it's possibly the most energetic, mad crowds in the country for us, which I've never really understood. I mean, we've played the Roundhouse and the place has just been the entire room of the Roundhouse is the one mosh pit. It's just amazing. So that was scheduled to have been happening. It was sold out in March or April, so that's been postponed till next March, and hopefully it'll happen then. But I still kind of think that it might end up getting pushed back even further.
Yeah, I've got my ticket, so when it happens, I'll be there.
Yeah.
Had a bit of a mad panic for that ticket. But I got one. I'll be there when it happens.
It'll be. I mean, I think the last time we played the Roundhouse was probably my favorite Ash show we've ever played. So if we get even anywhere close to that the next time, then it would still be brilliant. We've got, as far as like new releases goes, we actually have recorded a new album, and Tim's just finishing vocals, so that will probably come out early next year. And he's written another album's worth of material, which we haven't recorded yet, but at some point we'll get into the studio again. So we are still, you know, just plugging away, doing what we do. And it's like one of those things you just don't know. You record music and you never know what a little bit of luck can like make a song a hit. It's, you know, you just got to like keep plugging away, and something might take off. And as long as you're having fun doing it, it doesn't really matter.
Cool.
Okay, so we're getting close to the end here, and I see our time is ticking away.
Again.
How can people find you online, Mark?
Yes, the Ash website is ashofficial.com, and yeah, everything's there. And all the social media links are on that. I think on Twitter is Ash Official, Instagram is Ash1977. I think Facebook, it's pretty easy to find. I mean, we're all the usual spots. I'm trying to think if I've got any other stories that I went to the Skelligs after. Well, actually, I think it was after Force Awakens. I went to the Skelligs, and that was incredible. And if anyone wanted to go on a Star Wars pilgrimage, that is like, it's just, if you get the chance, do it, because it's mind blowing.
Definitely on my bucket list of places to go.
Yeah, I think there's a few of the Fantha Tracks guys have done it, and that and the trip to Finns, the Hoth trip.
Oh yeah, up in Norway.
Yeah, that's apparently absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I would love to do that. I love Norway. We actually go to Norway quite often on tour, so maybe sometime in the future we can do that. Yeah. But it's right up there, the Arctic Circle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Highway to Hoth. The Highway to Hoth tour.
Oh, there's a song idea.
Oh, I was going to tell you, on the Skelligs thing, on the little port town of Caherdaniel, which is where you can take one of the boats from. Don't go to Port McGee. Go to Caherdaniel. It's smaller, and there's only one guy who's got a boat, but he's a legend. There's about 4 little bars, and you can just sort of like hang out in this tiny little port. And they've got one of the most incredible natural phenomenons that you'll ever see, and it's this bioluminescent plankton called phosphorescent. It's like phosphorescent plankton, and it only comes out. We call it there's a red tide where a certain kind of algae they feed off it. So at the end of August and the first few weeks of September, you can see it, and the water just glows like nothing you can describe. It's like force lightning. So you could go in like the little boat at night, like at 2 a.m. in the morning, and run your hands through the water, and the water just like, it's like electric, it's like electric, just flares up, like force lighting out of your fingers.
Oh, cool.
And it was like one of those things that you can never do it justice to trying to describe it. You just have to see it. And we were like dancing around in this stuff and like swimming in it 2 a.m. in the morning. It was unbelievable.
Definite Fantha road trip needed for that then.
Yeah.
It is one of those, that is a bucket list thing to do.
Brilliant. Well, thank you again for taking time out and spending some time with us this evening. We hope to see you back out on the road with Ash, and obviously at future Star Wars celebrations and such.
Yeah, I'm sure whenever the cons start again, you'll probably see me somewhere.
Brilliant.
Thanks again, sir.
All right.
Thank you, Mark.
See you later, and good luck.
Thanks for listening to Desert Planet Discs. If you want to stay part of the action and up to date on all the latest Star Wars news, check out the Fantha Tracks app via the App Store on your mobile device.
You can contact us via email at radio@fanthatracks.com. Comment, like and share on any of our social media feeds at Fantha Tracks, and be sure to subscribe, leave a review, preferably a 5-star one, on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcatcher or smart speaker of choice.
Don't forget to head to fanthatracks.com/radio, home of Fantha Tracks Radio, and follow us on our social media feeds at Fantha Tracks, and bookmark fanthatracks.com for all the latest in Star Wars news.
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's Making Tracks.